All I can think about is donuts.
Like Krispy Kreme.
Just sugar. I just think I want carbs, man.
Sugar,
That would be so good.
Honey,
I want honey chicken.
Not a fan. Yeah. Used to be.
I'm not a fan of you. No offense, but I think you're an idiot. I think you're cracked.
Are we on?
Mm-hmm.
We're live?
Oh, yeah. All the bullying has been recorded.
Oh, sick.
I want to be honest, like, I'm pretty much a pretty big deal.
We're kind of big.
Yeah,
we kind of have 5 stars on Spotify.
Yeah,
like...
toot my own horn or anything, but...
Would you say number 1 podcast in Peakhurst?
Oh, without a doubt.
Maybe even the whole of Universe 7.
Wait, aren't we Universe 7?
Exactly.
What you did there, I seen it. I seen it.
You seen that?
Yeah, I seen it.
There we go.
We should probably start and talk about some
Yes.
things that we do.
Episode 4, mate, we're giving it away today.
I'll let it all out.
We're giving away all the secrets.
Yep.
All the secrets are coming out today on how we get results. So
the
we're
secret is we have OnlyFans. No,
do we have that?
Yeah.
I did tell Daniel post everywhere. Do we have an OnlyFans?
Yeah,
is that why you got a haircut?
That's what it's for.
This guy, that's why I got a haircut.
Hey.
But seriously, we're giving it away today. How we go from client walks in the door, confused, unsure how to get results, has tried everything, to end result, full body transformation, but not just physical, but their health as well. So internally, a lot healthier as well. Mentally, a lot healthier. All the good stuff. We're giving it away today, Brandine.
We're giving it away.
Now, where do we start?
Nutrition and programming.
Yeah.
So the first thing we do, so clients signed up, they now sign their life away, and we own your soul forever.
We brand you.
We brand
so you get the GT brand.
You get a tag,
Yeah.
so we know where you are at all times and
Yeah.
location as well too.
Important. That's accountability.
Yep, track it on my phone.
Can't track it.
No, we're going to sit down and we need to now know who this person is and what they're needing. And sometimes in a weird sort of way, actually explaining who they are to them as well too. Because sometimes people don't actually realize what they're doing and why they're doing it, or belief systems they've created around foods and things like that. So we want to sit down and basically get all the details of everything they're doing through the day, every single little movement. So I guess we'll just start like how we do it. We'll start there. Like, I basically will go down and I will sit down and I'm like, all right, so first thing we're doing, all right, what time do we wake up?
Yeah, and the exercise we use for that, there's a lot of confusion when people come in, right? Before they come in and what they've done before, they've researched, maybe they've worked with a few people in the past, but there's a lot of conflicting information online, and we've discussed that a lot. So first thing we do is a self-reflection log, also known as a food journal, basic tracking that we get clients to do, and that looks different for everyone. So for some people, it's literally just taking photos of their food for a couple of days, so we have some data to work with, which is what you're referring to now, right? The first thing you look at in that log is that data.
Going from like the first session of like where I'm going to set those tasks into play there. So like basically like for me, I maybe slightly different in how I do it, but I do first, I want to see if that's going to be relevant for that specific client. I don't tend to do it with everyone. So what I mean by that is, yes, is that the best way to do it? Absolutely. That is absolutely the best way to do it, because you're going to know exactly what you're doing. Having said that, people come in with different mindsets. And sometimes you might need to ease them into even just getting to the concept of reflection, because they're coming off the street and just thinking, oh, I'm going to train and lose weight without any prior knowledge of how this works. And then to not overload is a big thing, because I do want to look at like, if I get someone there, I can really see that sleep's poor, stress is high. Or if I start adding in tracking and they're like, I do this and then this and program, it's like a lot.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah, it's way too overwhelming. So it does depend on the client for me on how I'm going to do that. But usually 9 times out of 10, after that first nutritional phase, that session, the tracking for 3 days to a week there is what we're going to be doing to see really what's going on. But I try to break it down in the session there as well too. Like I'll go through a full day of eating, right? Just to see where they're at. Because why I do that is I do that, and then once I do the self-reflection, I can see the difference.
Yeah, right.
Because our people's perception of what they think they're eating, and sometimes like how much they're eating as well too, it's always off. Always.
I always find when people, and whether you sit down with them and break it down right then and there, a typical day of eating for them, or if they do the exercise of recording on their own and then bringing it to you, there's always a recurring factor. It's that the protein is not there. It's non-existent. And the meals are normally very heavy in carbohydrates and not good quality carbohydrates either. It's more eating for the sake of eating and for convenience rather than fueling the body.
Time is the big thing, the perception there. This is where a lot of people base their food around time. Right? I don't have time, so I was going to eat what's available. It's like, no, I don't agree with that. And I never will agree with that, to be honest with you. But yeah, so with that self-reflection, after we're going through that self-reflection, what's the first thing you look at once you've got that data?
Well, what you actually mentioned first, I am actually looking at when they're waking up and when they're going to sleep, because that's on the tracking. But I'm looking at how they start their day. How are they starting their day? When's the first time they're eating since waking up? What are they starting their day with? Are they going straight to caffeine? Because if they're going straight to caffeine as soon as they wake up, that tells me that there's an issue there, with whether it's with their sleep, their energy levels, and all that affecting it. Are they going a long time without eating? Does that mean the night before that they were eating really late or overindulging at night? There's a lot, but I'm always looking at the first meal when I look at that personally.
Yep. And then so once we're going through those meals, what's the main thing you're looking through out of the food? So what I mean by that is like I look at the food in relation to their current habits. Yeah. And be like, okay, well, why are you eating this and why is it at this time? Like, oh, why? Okay, we're having chocolate or something after dinner. All right, what's going on there? Because those habits start to tell a pattern of where the person's at. Yeah, you start to realize, okay, you were stressed out here. What happened here? Why did you eat there? Or why did you rush this meal here? Why was this takeaway? Why is this meal always like this? You start to see a pattern where like they make emotional decisions with their food, or you see the midday slump and then it's like sugar-based food to pick them back up, or caffeine again. Yep. I'm looking for the habits for sure. Looking for the habits. I'm looking to see what they're trying to do with their food. Yeah. And so then, like after that, then we start obviously interventions and what we're going to do alongside the food. So usually the first thing we do and what you want to do, again, like what I was saying there, is like not trying to overwhelm people. And it's a really relaxed, chill approach. It doesn't have to be this whole, all right, we're changing everything about who you are as a person now and all your food. It's like, all right, let's just look at what's the biggest flaw in your current way you're eating. What's your main constraint? Most of the time, it's always breakfast for people. Yeah. Usually they just skip breakfast. What do you find is the biggest issue with that? There's a number of issues with it. Depends on, it's different for male and women. Women are not viable intermittent fasters or time-restricted eating. There's a lot of evidence to support exacerbating a lot of issues, especially around time of the month and periods. Without going into too much of a tangent on that, we'll probably save that for we'll touch on that with hormones and stuff like that anyway. But check out episode 3. Yes. So breakfast is the big one there. So you very rarely are we going to start from a different meal, because you want to start from the first step of the day. Yeah, right? You don't want to skip steps. Yeah, you don't want to skip steps. And when you find you have a good breakfast in place, which sounds like a generic thing, but so simple. But it's so simple, right? When you have a good breakfast in place, you're going to start the day by making better decisions. If your first decision was a good decision, well, we can follow suit from there. And it's just the easiest place. Momentum. Yeah, it's just adding in, it's like a puzzle piece. Okay, we add in this one, add in the next one. What you said is crucial though. We're not trying to change everything at once, right? And unfortunately, when you look at diets in general, extreme diets or extreme measures of getting results, it is a big overhaul of everything in one hit, and that's why it's not sustainable and it's not long term. What we're trying to do is approach nutrition in a way where it makes sense long term and it is sustainable. So we start with the first meal a day, because generally that's the first constraint, and that has a domino effect of positivity through the day, as you mentioned. So if we intervene there,
give some options that make sense. And something that I know you do and I do, we always ask our clients, is this realistic to follow? And we give them options. So then you don't feel like you're just in this box.
Yep.
You need to, it's simple, right?
Mm.
Simple doesn't always mean easy. So we also have to give ways to get it done.
Yep.
But if you start there, it is a good starting point and you focus on that one task and nailing that task.
Yep.
It's a lot easier than just overhauling the whole life and all the habits you already have established.
Mm.
So that's where we start.
Yeah, and then it's simple as just doing one task at one time.
Yeah.
So, for example, if we set that, all right, we're going to change the breakfast. We're adding in these foods here, and let's say for the next week of we do a session. Let's say we got the session on a Monday morning, right? Okay, let them go through the week. See them the following Monday, and I struggled to have the breakfast this week, but I did this with my food. I'm like, okay, that's fine, that's great. Mm. The task is going to remain the same.
Yeah.
We're not moving until we do this task. We're very I just. Basically, I'm like an anchor. I'm like, no, this is the task, and we're not changing until we do this task.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because it's a human reward element of what you're trying to do here. Because if you try and change your whole diet plan in one go, right, or even you're changing bits and pieces here, the problem is it's not something that you're going to be able to replicate because you're not really tracking on what you changed or why you changed it.
The big thing with breakfast as well is what's marketed to people, right? So this is a big reason why we need to start here as well. What breakfast foods generally aren't very healthy. And especially if you're looking at weight loss, they're not foods that are going to align with your goal of weight loss. It's all sugary based stuff. It's a lot of processed stuff. And most people, like you said, skip it. But the people who do have breakfast, the only really good breakfast food they could potentially be having is eggs. And unfortunately, a lot of people get sick of having eggs every morning, or they use the time excuse, as you mentioned earlier. So eggs are a great option that we definitely recommend. But adopting a mentality around having non-breakfast foods goes a long way as well long term. But that is the biggest issue I find, is that we've been marketed a certain type of food that doesn't align. So we also have to break that mindset on that limitation of what you can eat in the first thing in the morning. Yeah.
And I think too, like the focus on breakfast too is like most of the time people aren't having a breakfast, or they're having, like you said, they're not good quality food, a lot of sugar-based stuff, which again is your brain in the morning having for certain people, most people, having a massive insulin spike. First thing in the morning is very neurotoxic. Cognitive function will not benefit from that. Context does matter.
If you're training after you eat, that sort of thing, it makes sense to have some carbs beforehand, but
also too, like the overall essence of what we're trying to do here, because we haven't even said it because it's 100% of the time it's always this. The goal here is rebuilding calories to increase.
Yes.
Because everyone always starts nowhere eating enough. So it's been normalized through everywhere that under eating is like a normal thing. So we're actually in a malnourishment epidemic. That's a thing that's specifically, it is happening alongside women, and it is starting to carry alongside with men as well too. The amount of food that's been normalized to eat is not correct.
Yes.
People are scared of calories, but that also shows me that they don't understand calories.
Yeah.
If you're scared of them, you don't understand how they work or what is really happening here. And so going back to it, by adding that breakfast in there, we're already having a massive uptake in calories straight off the bat. And that's the whole process of what we're trying to do with rebuilding calories is force a recomposition, a body recomposition. And so, by most people, like genuinely, honestly, I can guarantee it'll be the same. Like whenever you're dealing with a new client, it's always that 1,200 to 1,500 range of calories. Always, it's amazing how much consistency that comes through. Yep. And I think just a correlating factor, it's pretty obvious, is that most people just, again, skip breakfast and they'll eat a little lunch and then they eat dinner, and dinner's pretty standard.
Yeah.
And so everyone's in that same pattern. And that is, again, so it's a really interesting one too, because I always get convictions around increasing food, because people think, oh, no, like increase food and eat fat. It's like, well, no, this doesn't work that way, unfortunately, because like it's metabolic adaptation. So just to shed a bit of context too, like when you're under eating, your body is going to adapt to those lower calories, right? And so the analogy I always give to this is it's like a power saver mode for a phone. When you or a computer, you put it in battery saver. a lot of the CPU, the GPU is going to power down. It's not going to be as active and generating as much power. It won't be as capable to do as many things. Your body is the exact same. And then on top of that too, it's a real fascinating one, because if you just objectively think about it, it's like, well, if you're starting in the gym and you're unhealthy, you're overweight, but you're under eating, why would you think eating less is going to exacerbate that or make it better?
Also, if it was going to work to eat less, it would have worked.
Because you're already in a deficit.
I think unfortunately, people have a low standard of what their bodies can do as well. I know we have a new client that joined with us last week, and under eating, as you mentioned, and what he was mentioning is that he gets by. It's like, well, do you want to get by? Or do you want to be optimal? Like, what would you prefer? Do you want to be energized or just have enough energy?
I think people don't know what it's like to feel good, though.
I agree.
So they're basing you're basing I feel like this off already feeling like shit.
Yeah.
So it's like the
your
measurement
lower.
Well, the measurement of how you're gauging what feels good is it's not quite there. So yesterday is a good one. Going back with clients there, Steph, who we've mentioned lots of times, who's just killing it. We had a big increase on her calories. So the whole process of how it started, I'll use her as an example actually, just to illustrate what it kind of looks like. So she was working with a naturopath, she's got a really good basis of food, like all organic and stuff like that. That's why I do refer back to her. Yeah, so it's a good standard, a good easy measurement gauge. But she was working with a naturopath, and I could see straight off the bat the calories that were allocated were not in the mindset of understanding training is here too.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
so when you're adding training into your week, even if it's one session, two, that's an intake in calories. You're doing more action. So naturally you need more calories to adapt alongside that, because now your net calories of what you're eating because of that extra movement is now even lower, right? So I could see it was not high enough. So we slowly and gradually increased it. It started around 1,200. And I believe now we're up to around 1,800 to 1,900.
It's a big difference.
But what's really fascinating is in the time when she was she's getting closer to a maintenance now. The maintenance is almost like 2-3, something like that. And why you're going to be gentle with it is because gastric distress, you can't just rapidly increase calories. It has to be alongside adaptation in the gym. But we've now getting to a part there where she is above her BMR. And what's really interesting, she dropped about 4 or 5 centimeters as we were slowly increasing calories, still in that deficit. When we got past that BMR and had a higher intake, we saw the waist and hips drop an extra 3 centimeters, boom, off that first calorie jump. And that's one of the most common things you see as you're recomping, because you're getting to where you should be.
This is what I always say to people, that's a perfect example. When she was eating 1,200 calories, she was in a deficit, yes. But right now at 1,900 calories, she's still in a deficit.
And she's dropping.
So here's the question. Why, 60% deficit, for example, compared to a 10% deficit, you're still in a deficit. You don't need to be so aggressive because, like you said, you power down, right? Yep. Those other tasks and systems don't get the energy they need. And this is why low energy, low resilience starts to come into play. And that's a big problem because it will affect your adherence.
It affects your NEAT as well too. Like when you're so you're starving, you don't feel motivated to get up and go for a run.
How are you going to perform?
You can't perform. You literally can't, and that's the thing. So you see this happens with bodybuilders as they're getting really deep into their diet phase. That they're so lethargic because they're so. I mean, that's an extreme case, right? Because they're sub 5% body. Yeah, they literally are literally a few hours away from dying when they're on stage, which is a crazy sport. But anyway, they it's hard because you're so low on calories, but you have to do more work.
Yeah.
And that's where it's absolutely brutal. And genuinely, most people are living like a bodybuilder, but you're not bodybuilders.
Yeah.
Right? You're not needing to starve yourself. And a lot of this mentality of like super low calories and pump heaps of cardio, you're going to drop tons of weight, but you're also going to lose tons of muscle and bone density.
Yeah.
You're not going to be healthy. And always, I mean, think of this analogy. How many times have you heard of someone like, I'm doing all this cardio and I'm tracking calories and I lost all this weight, and then it comes back?
It bounces back.
It doesn't maintain because you haven't got a healthy base there of calories. So the way of the overarching thing of what we're understanding here of what the body is, it acts like a furnace. Your body is a furnace, right? So if you imagine like a steam train, right, putting coal into the furnace there, right? When you're putting little bits amount, it's just cruising along. It's not going to be generating that much power. It's going to be moving quite slow. When you want to bring up speed, you're going to start putting more energy. Boom, that flame gets bigger. Everything starts ramping up. You start moving more. So even the process of losing weight requires calories, or digesting food.
It's nutrient dependent.
Yeah, digesting food requires calories. Like to convert fat cells into ATP energy, that's Krebs cycle. That is energy. You need calories, you need carbohydrates, you need food to do this. It's like your car. If your car doesn't have petrol, oil, or water,
how far is it going to go?
It ain't going nowhere, right? And so that is one thing I really wish the whole industry as a whole could change. Normalize eating normal amounts of food, not starving.
And what normal amounts of food are.
Talk to your Instagram friggin' influencers.
Except for us.
Stop being on steroids and starving yourself. Yes.
Listen to us on Instagram.
I'm not an influencer. I don't want to be an influencer. I'm not interested.
No.
So that's the main thing there. It's basically like repairing them.
Yeah, it is.
It's a repair phase.
And look, it's very predictable these days. Mm-hmm. People come in, it's a lot of the same thing. And yes, there's still individuals, and how we present the information is very personalized, very tailored to that individual. But it is a lot of the same scenario: undereating, and not just undereating in calories, but malnourishment, not enough nutrients, essential nutrients that are involved in those processes that are required. So, yeah, and when we start going back to come back to where we started, starting at breakfast and eating enough, that's the first thing you would be advising someone, correct? So someone watching this wants to lose weight, wants to get in shape. You're looking at how are you starting your day?
Yeah, so circling back, it's everything I just said after that breakfast little tangent there. That is what the thinking is around the breakfast, right? What we're trying to fix and all those little modalities in between. And so it's as simple as now, and this is where it will lead into the next podcast with training and having nutrition aligned with training, which they cannot be separate at all. This is why, again, cookie cutter programs and things like this, they don't work. Again, I want to say that really harshly. Normalize that your nutrition and training are one. They are not separate. They cannot be separated, right?
Yes.
If you are, you're trying to be an endurance runner and you're eating like a bodybuilder, well, it's not going to work now, is it, right? So that straight off the bat, you need to have food aligning with what you're currently doing. Yeah. And that's basically what it starts to look like. So once the client's, okay, cool, now that breakfast is good, we're going to start moving on to the next meal.
Yeah, exactly.
And usually, again, we're just going to target which meal is the worst and what's the easiest meal to change now to yield the best result.
Yes.
Sometimes it might not even be a meal. It might even be the food's good, but where we're eating it and how we're handling it is not the best way. Like we're eating it, rushing, like I'm working and eating and it's like, well, we're not digesting food properly. So the intervention might be, okay, no, we're going to take time to sit down, be mindful, eat the food, focus on it, enjoy it, do that kind of thing and move on to the next thing.
But we're not necessarily removing food. A lot of time we're mainly adding food, right? We're changing food quality. Yeah. We're changing food quality. We're taking a more whole food sort of approach to the nutrition. And that also doesn't mean you can never have food out. No. Or you can't have like a piece of chocolate or anything like that. We have to build the resilience and the discipline to do that too, because we have to be strong enough to have one piece or know where to stop and be able to do it in moderation. But we're not cutting things out. This is why it shouldn't be a scary experience. It should actually be quite an enjoyable process because you're going to build this amazing relationship with food.
Yeah, I think where people struggle is it's just you are going to have to do more work.
Yeah.
Like you're going to have to prep some food and it's like, cool. But again, it goes back to like the biggest thing is always the problem here is, time, I don't have time. And I believe it's a Mark quote again.
Touch the wolf.
You either got more time than money or more money than time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you have to decide whether you're going to invest time into your food, or if you don't want to invest your time, you're going to have to invest your money. For a lot of people, it's actually a combination of the two. Right? So you need to spend more time buying good quality food that you're actually excited to eat. Prepping the food in a way and cooking the food in a way where it's flavoursome and and it still aligns. And if you really have like absolutes around, I just don't have time to prep my lunch, then you might have to look at getting a meal prep company like a Platinum Meals to have that done for you and invest the money into your health. Plug Platinum Meals. But if you think about how much, here's something for people who are concerned about money around their nutrition. Take a look at your Uber Eats. Audit your spending for Uber Eats for the past month. See what that is. That's your budget. That's your budget for food.
Or see how much you spend on alcohol a week.
That's another one
too. How much you spend when you go out to, eat at restaurants or things like that. Another thing, I mentioned this to a client yesterday, one of Jarrell's clients. They're like, they're prepping, but they're struggling with time. And I go, well, do you have a family member that likes to cook?
Yeah.
Here's the ingredients. I'll pay you. Cook for me if they got time. Like you got an older grandmother that, I love to cook. Look after my family. Have some money. Here's my food. Cook for me. There you go.
What
I
accent
love you
was
now. I almost slipped on that one.
Almost got you.
He's trying to me too me. He's trying to.
Hey Brent. What accent was that?
It was the Greek. What do you call a Greek falling downstairs? Condescending. It's funny too because ironically I'm actually Greek as well. Greek.
Yes, but I think auditing your spending, like you said, alcohol's a big one.
Ordering.
Auditing. Audit.
Audit?
Not order.
Auditing?
Auditing.
How are you using that word in that context, George?
Review your spending.
Okay. I like that.
Review your spending. Review your spending on alcohol. Review your spending on meals out. Review your Uber Eats account. Scary thing to do for some people, but, rip the Band-Aid off, have a look. And it's not even about removing that whole spending, but you can see that there's money to allocate towards better quality food. It doesn't have to just be meal prep, but going to a butcher instead, like we discussed last episode.
There's one thing on this too, and this one's like basically like even a message straight to our clients, right? Just understand that when you implement these things, the food you're currently eating, whether it be like enjoyment foods, Uber Eats and things like that, if we just touch on it, those foods are created to be enjoyable. They're created to be addictive. Mm-hmm. So you do get dopamine from them. It's called a bliss set point of food. Like the example, like Coca-Cola. Why does it have sodium and caffeine? Caffeine's a diuretic, makes you go to the bathroom. Sodium is going to make you thirsty. You're going to drink more.
Yeah.
And then sugar. Great. More. Keep drinking, buy more, consumerism, right? So when you go... what you're changing here alongside going to this style of food, you're going from a short format of dopamine where everything's rewarding you to now you need to complete a week and actually achieve something to feel that dopamine and feel rewarded the same way from eating those foods that make you feel nice, right?
Which is how you should. Human reward should be working. From you working hard, achieving it, and then, I'm getting at, there is a growing pain there where you're in like this abyss of like you're changing all these things, but nothing's happening yet. The weight's not moving. Sometimes it might even come up because you're more glycogen loaded. Now you're eating more food, right? But these are normal processes that the body does, right? And so what I'm saying is it's not like this 1-for-1 ratio. Okay, you're going to eat more and then it starts coming up. Everybody's different. Everyone's genetics are different. The process will remain the same, but that time of how long it starts to take effect can be different based on adherence, right? Yeah. But there is that little transitional phase where you're going to be adding these foods that you, quote unquote, don't really enjoy yet, but also too, if you're not enjoying them, make them more interesting. Learn
to cook.
So herbs and spices.
ChatGPT, what's in your fridge? Take a photo and it will tell you ingredients. Yeah, like it's amazing for things like that.
So reviewing your budget and your consumption outside of what you're prepping is a good way to reinvest in your health, right? The other one that we mentioned, which I think is huge for people, is a big eye opener, is the self-reflection. If you're on your own, if you're not working with a trainer, you should be. But self-reflection, whether you write it down in a notebook or you take photos of on your phone of what you've been eating, it's telling you the story. And you start to see like, oh wow, I actually don't eat as much as I think, or maybe I'm not eating as clean as I thought. I find people eat really healthy Monday to Thursday, maybe Friday during the day, but from Friday through to Sunday they blow out their food. So that's where the overconsumption may occur. It's over the weekend. So they're under-eating and then over-eating.
And just a little science lesson on that. And this is why like people are probably wondering, well, how am I overweight if I'm under-eating? Well, that's kind of how it happens. Is because you've normalized your body on such a low calorie threshold. The moment you go out and have an exertion of calories, your body cannot handle it. So it's like, well, if I'm eating 1,200 calories in a week and on the weekend I'm drinking and then 3,000, I'm eating pizza and this and that, it is such a blowout, and especially of the wrong type of macronutrients and a lack of micronutrients alongside these quality of foods. It's not how it is. Again, too, like it's funny, like I see like people think their food's great, but it's like, well, then why aren't you healthy?
Well, exactly. But if it worked, it would work.
If it worked, it will work.
But it's often it's often low calories and low nutrients, and then when it's higher calories, it's still low nutrients. So they're not nutrient dense foods that are being overconsumed on those weekends. It's alcohols and things like that you mentioned. And also when you're eating out, you don't know what they're using. You don't know what oil they're using when they're cooking your food or what they're adding to it to make it taste nice. And again, that's not a thing to say never eat out, but be more intentional when you do. And everything in moderation. You have to do the hard work first. You have to work before you play.
Yeah, and that's basically like just the basis of how it is. It's actually that simple. There's not really a whole lot that goes into it. Like when clients want to know the whys of like, okay, why are we putting this food here? Like, why is it this type of carbohydrate around this certain time? Yeah, okay, then we get a bit more nuance and explain why. Like, you know, like for me, like lowering carbs at night is a good option. Insulin sensitivity, like no carbs after training. High carbs after training of fat. Because it slows down digestion. Like that, you will get more technical. It's not like there it is this super simple thing, but just doing those habits and falling into place with those will change everything. And I mean it does because we got the data too.
I mean it's everyone that comes in here and you see the repeated sort of message of it was easier than I thought, it's simpler than I thought to make the changes. A lot of people will say. But it doesn't have to be.
You just got to be right? You just got to be willing. Like if you come into a gym and you start with a trainer or anything, and you're trying to protect the way you are, you're setting yourself up to fail. You have to understand. And I don't mean this in a harsh way. I mean it in an empathetical way. The way most people are is not indicative of health. As I said, you would be healthy and you would be fit if that was the case. So you have to understand. Yeah, a lot of the things you're doing, a lot of the belief systems you have around food, is not going to align with someone who is that of a gym person. It's like, we've touched on it multiple times. It's the Biggest Loser analogy, right? If you identify as a foodie, how can you be a fitness person? Because you're in the indulgence mindset, right? So we have to be willing and ready to go, yep, I have to accept change. Take the critique.
Why can't you be a foodie and have a appreciate a good steak?
You gotta earn it though. So that's a big thing. Like, so it's like, touch on this too, like with like cheat meals and going to that stage, right? You got to do the work first. You can't become a doctor and get your doctorate if you haven't done the 10 years of uni, right? You got to do the work to earn that. So you'll see like, and you see this on Instagram, all jack shredded people and they're eating pizzas and stuff. It's like, yeah, but they've committed 20 years of their life, discipline day in, day out, every single day. Yeah, okay, you can have a pizza and it's not going to hurt. And that's the beautiful part about when you do all this. You can then go back to those foods that, not all the time, right? It has to be a reward system element to this, moderation. And you can have them and enjoy them and it's guilt-free. If anything, it might make you better sometimes.
I agree, but I think the whole foodie thing is a cop-out to eat unhealthy. You're calling yourself a foodie to eat unhealthy because you could be a foodie and just appreciate a good quality steak when you go out. And it could be with a meal that, okay, you have a steak and you have chips. Chips, are they the greatest thing? No. But there's some good on the plate. You can be a foodie in that sense.
Well, I give the analogy to this too. People are like, I'm a foodie though. I love my food. It's like, oh, well, imagine if I said that around drugs. Would you think that's okay?
I'm a druggie.
I'm a druggie, but I love my drugs.
I love drugs.
Okay. I love my alcohol. I need to drink it every day. I'm an alcoholic. But how come with food it gets a pass? It doesn't get a pass. It's an addiction and it's not normal. We don't normalize this because indulgence is what leads to obesity. It leads to being unhealthy and that leads you to an early grave. It's not good.
That's the next point. Don't normalize bad behavior. Don't look at what other people are doing because the Australian population, unfortunately, is very unhealthy. We have an obesity crisis in Australia, and not even just that. We also, you had a great one the other day about sedentary work. It's the new smoking.
Yeah, it's smoking.
Right? It's the new smoking. So this is what's normal. What's normal is being unhealthy. So don't look at what everyone's doing and don't look at what's normal. You need to reset what's normal in your eyes. What should be normal is exercising frequently, eating healthy, and yes, having the other stuff as well, going out and enjoying it. But like you said, the hard work comes first. Normalize being a healthy individual. But I think the little tools we've gone over so far, like the reflection, is a good one. Especially if you're off on your own and you're trying to figure out where to start, reflect. And then start with the first meal of the day. Training. Get yourself moving. Get the body moving. And don't move just to outwork your bad habits and your bad food, your poor food choices, because you can't outwork it. As you said before, you can't separate your nutrition from your training. So training harder is not going to outwork what you ate. It's a very dangerous mentality to have. Very dangerous mentality to have. And review your spending. Review your spending of where you're purchasing these foods. To be honest,
most of the time when you start eating cleaner, like you're getting more, natural foods. So things that aren't coming from, like a thing that was built in a lab or came from a package that's not natural food. We don't want it in the diet. And look, just on that, this touches to the last podcast we were talking about food quality. I don't want to be that trainer that's like, no, we can't eat this, we can't eat these. Unfortunately, this is a byproduct of the modern world, and there is a lot of foods out there that may look good, but unfortunately how they handle it is going to affect result. And that is a sad, harsh reality. I can't do anything about that. Just, it is what it is. We have to accept it, and we move on, and we learn to adapt around it. But at the end of the day, I see it as a benefit because, it is a harder task to go from more constantly cleaner foods, but you're just going to live longer. You're going to feel better. You're going to be better at your job. You're going to work better in your relationships. Every part of your life, your sleep, everything is going to improve.
Quality of life. Because
you're now giving your body quality, and you will feel what it's like to actually be a human for the first time in your life. Like, genuinely, there is people that go through their entire life and it's all indulgence. It's like, oh yeah, but I live my life, and I have my pizza and my beer on the weekend, and I love it, and it's great. It's like, but you don't know what it's like to feel good, and you don't know what you've like to see what you're fully capable of. And that's the main thing here of what the food is to get you to be your optimal best, so that we can then achieve the big goals, right?
Good framework for what you just said there. Focus on real food, not food products. If you want to implement that information in a very simple way, just ask yourself, is this a product or is it real food? And you can implement exactly what you just said there. And you'll get those benefits. Because it is a bit sad, isn't it, when we see it. People come in here and they really believe that's how they have to live their life. In pain, overweight, struggling, and it doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't have to be. And again, we've said it multiple times, you'll see it, and our clients will back it too. When they start doing it, they look back at the process, you're like, it's not that hard. You just got to change things. And that's I got to really solidify that. You have to change. You have to be willing to change. If you don't have willingness to change, you won't change. You will remain the same. Simple as that. And
insanity.
On that bombshell, nutrition. Do we get an outro now? We should do an outro as well too.
Outro.
Or it's just that thingy, and I just have a dance party for 5 minutes of silence.
So, we got everything. We got all our points.
Yeah, we got all the points.
The points are there. Implement it. Action it. What's our outro?
I think it has to be the same thing again. I want to hear it twice because it's so great and I love it so much, and it's just the greatest thing ever until we get copy striked with it, of course.
You think we'll get copyrighted?
Nah, we're too small go.
Can you believe this guy got a haircut?
I mean,
he got a sick fade, and he didn't.
He has hair, so
he out sick faded me.
Wait, hang on. I'm gonna flip this on you now. Are you ready? Do you think you're the first to get a fade?
Yes.
This is why Greeks, I bully you, right? Why are you like this?
Is the camera still going?